Hey everyone, CPAT here with another Exceed commentary. And today we have a live match, which is pretty exciting. I'm back on camera, so we're gonna be able to talk and reference the cards at the same time. But anyways, I'm CPAT, bringing you another match in the Hallowed Nights tournament in the Breakfast Club Discord. This is a tournament with Season 6 involved. If you've seen the earlier videos, you already know the intro. We're already getting started here. And we have a matchup here between Ashlyn on the Batista, who has drawn a card before setting an attack, but I guess it's fine. D just opting for a wild swing here. We have Batista versus Carmine. Wild swing will work. We'll actually yoink advantage back, so while this was an even 4-for-4 trade, Carmine has extra cards in hand because this was a wild swing. Carmine will yoink the advantage back, which is normally the good part of Assault. Immediately veils off, interestingly enough, without any... So this is actually interesting. This is the veil off without any blood pools engaged. This is not something I've seen before. I wonder if... I've seen D go for a veil off into an immediate revert the turn after. I wonder if he's going for a line like this. Plus Carmine has a bunch of slows in the deck, so the focus is kind of a superfluous combat option, as Batista strikes from range 1 with her ability, presumably, so she can push or pull extra spaces. So like Grasp, for example, beats Sweep. That's like the main one. Grasp would push to range 4 here. But Batista is striking again. Really aggressive play from Batista. Only has 3 cards in hand. Wild Swing Twist will not work here. And the Spike will miss. Wow, okay. D, with these early Wild Swings, the first one pans out. The second one does not. Takes 6. Loses a Twist in the process, as well as a Gimme That. And now we're going to see a Thrust getting boosted from D. He must have like a really strange hand that he's not... I mean, he doesn't have any blood pools in hand, I'm assuming, for him to use a Thrust. I feel like Thrust is such an important card to Carmine's kit, that when I see it boosted like this, it's really like a last resort almost, as we see a charged attack coming out from Batista, plus 2 power. Although this boost seems pretty good, obviously. Fierce is a good boost, right? But Transference seems like a really good ultra against Carmine at 4 speed. As D preps, Batista striking again. Super aggressive Batista gameplay. It's going to be the sweep into the focus, so the focus will hit first, or the focus will hit second, since before doesn't go off. That is super bad for D, and super good for Ashlyn here. Who loses the laser, not the biggest deal in the world, but draws a card in the process, of course, off the focus. Batista off to a really good early start. Finally, a blood pool comes out from Carmine. So of course this is the infamous dissolve boost. If your range towards the opponent includes the space extra range, plus 2 power, and hit, add this to your gauge. Back to Ashlyn here, who will boost respect to cross over, looks like. Now notably, Carmine needs to revert before he can do the Carmine shuffle, as Batista looks like she's opting for the full distance, moving to range 3. Let's see if D strikes here. He's at a bit of a life disadvantage. Ashlyn has been really aggressive on the Batista, and the aggression has really been paying off, catching Carmine with a suboptimal hand. Clearly. Back to D here. We actually saw this exact matchup last time. Yep, and so D will go for the revert into the Carmine shuffle, which means Batista gets the draw 2 here, but we saw that coming. Just the Carmine shuffle just gets so much value here. You get the blood pool back into play. You get that additional range. So now that assault shape from Carmine at 1 to 2, 4, 5 will perform wonders here, alongside the multitude of slows that Carmine has. For example, Pulverize works well as something like a sweep. As we see Batista boosting Restriction. I've never seen this boost before. When you advance or retreat, add this to your gauge. Hit, push, or pull 1. I'd never seen that boost before. I wonder if D can afford to strike here. Just because, like, if D strikes with the super obvious assault, Like, Batista has shapes to trade, I think. Yeah, no, but luckily, Carmine drew a second blood pool off that turn, looks like. So we have the you family friendly, this is the end. Very good. So 2 blood pools now in play for Carmine. No, a cross would be speed 6, hit 1 to 4, and basically beat everything. Although the EX coming out here, it's gonna be something like EX Mikoru Seo. Could be like, I guess EX Lumen Stella would be like the quote unquote risky option, but Mikoru Seo performs pretty well here. And let's see if it is the Mikoru Seo. It is the EX Mikoru Seo. D does have the focus, of course, so that he cannot be pushed or pulled. This Mikoru Seo only does 3 damage, 1 after armor, and then the focus will hit back for 8 minus 3 is 5. Both blood pools have to be triggered, which is kind of unfortunate because D did have to flip to front side, so doesn't have those blood pools right away, because he needs to spend a turn to flip, and here is that turn to flip. So Batista does have a free turn here, a quote-unquote free turn. So yeah, things are not looking so bad for the Batista right now. Carmine got off to a little bit of a slow start, and Ashland's did a good job of keeping the pressure up, although now that the Carmine succeeded with 2 blood pools engaged, now things might get a little hairy if Batista's unable to keep up that pressure, especially down the Mikoru Seo as well. Notably, like, a card like EX Laser would just completely would be really good, but 1 laser is down, so you can't just throw out Lumen Stella either, because that might actually lose the dive, and that might be actually just a game-losing play. EX Lumen Stella, I believe, is up, and that would be quite safe. Only losing to, like, not losing, but D would have to play something weird like Assault to hop here. So it looks like we have a Crimson Wings boosted, +1 speed. When you advance or retreat, add this to gauge. It's an interesting one. I expect D to just do the backside shuffle, play Dissolve from gauge, and move 1. In response to this, no? Okay. Interesting, Carmine will boost from hand. Boost the second copy of the U blank. This is the end. Range 1 from himself. The tech hit coming out from Batista. So yeah, now this would be like a 4-speed Lumen Stella if it is the Lumen Stella, and that performs better than the 3-speed, of course. Assuming D doesn't have EX dive, because if he does, I feel like you just mash that anyway. Nope, just the block coming from the Carmine, and it's going to be the speed 5 dive instead. So this Armor Bellum will get added to gauge as well, so a little bit extra value there. It's going to be a 5 power block. Looks like we'll get fully blocked by D here. We'll now do the Carmine shuffle. Put it on Batista's space and actually hop over, sticking to that range 1. Threatening the fast slow here. Actually, Carmine's always threatening the fast slow, so that's not really a big deal. But interestingly enough, stays at the range 1. Which tells me that this is a slow that D wants to threaten. I feel like if he stood at range 2, right? It's like range 1 means that that Batista's cross can be caught by some more slows, like the 1 to 3s become the 1 to 4s. So Carmine can catch the Batista cross. Does this say that D doesn't have a fast available and wants to try to trade with the cross instead of outspeed it? Anyway, back to Batista here. Unfortunately, after that really solid early game, that's kind of tapered off a little bit in the mid game. As far as damage is concerned, luckily still only 2 blood pools available. I think there are 2 blood pools left in this deck, if I'm not mistaken. 1 did get tech hit, of course. Batista thinking about spending force for something, looks like. In the form of that Armor Bellum. Batista is a character that generates a ton of force due to her kit of 5 ultras, multiple of which can be added to gauge when you advance or retreat, after being boosted as well. On top of just being a nuisance in that hand. It's actually the first turn, I think, that that's taken a while as far as thought's concerned. So it's a critical juncture here, both for the Batista player. Just a prep. Interestingly, opts for the prep over the change cards action. As we see the Blood Spike being boosted on the second copy of Gimme That. If the opponent's in the dissolved space, deal 2 non-lethal damage, push or pull 1, then take another action. So that's... So, now D is actually set up the range 2. So I guess that tells me that my previous thought was wrong. He just wanted the Gimme That to push to range 2. Did D take a second action? No, it looks like he's going for a reading, looking at that discard. Says no, opts to boost a second Blood Spike. Takes a step back as well. Doubles Blood Spike. Of course, your fast option here is going to be either cross or... We see instant flight getting boosted from Batista. So cross or thrust. That's not how instant flight works. Looks like they're fixing it now. Yeah, so we saw this in the last match between Poiman and Erica, where they also misread what instant flight was. But instant flight is actually a before effect. On the strike, reveal the top card of your deck, advance or retreat X, where X is the revealed card's power. So notably, Carmine can threaten a 7-speeder here, because I believe 1 twist is left in the deck. That twist will only do 6 damage, so it gets, not the... Still can get traded out. It looks like the tech hit coming out doesn't want to deal with the shenanigans that come with the instant flight, especially if the instant flight's able to go first, then Carmine's likely to miss, or, you know, just random stuff happens. Who knows? So D says, no, not going to deal with that. Going to tech hit that and strike. Batista going for the wild swing. And there is that twist option that we were talking about. Unfortunately, the wild swing from Batista not really panning out. So both blood pools will go to gauge. This will be a 6 damage twist. Did Batista take 6? I'm assuming Batista took 6. I hope Batista took 6. Unfortunately, Mix is not here to catch my errors today, because it is very, very late. But I hope Batista took 6. As we see, of course, Twist gains advantage. Places itself as a trap boost as well due to its after. So Carmine gets to put 2 trap boosts. Like, Twist is so strong for this reason, just because it allows you to put 2 unreactable dissolves up before your opponent can even take a turn. Back to Batista here, who actually kind of lost her way a little bit after that really stellar early game, unfortunately. Just like being able to catch Carmine out before Carmine drew the good cards, but kind of stagnated a little bit in the mid game, and now finds herself in a losing position, unfortunately. Notably, these blood pools at 3 say that normally when you see blood pools, you put one like a little bit closer to Carmine, as we see an expenditure of 2 force to move 2 moves inside the blood pools, interestingly enough. And so now, if I'm Carmine, I'm thinking of something like Dive being a major threat from Batista here to trade with your slows. That's what I'm looking at. So Dive would have obviously cross over, and these blood pools wouldn't do anything. As we see the reversion back from Carmine into the Carmine shuffle, choosing to stay further back. So clearly wants to threaten with a longer range attack. Doesn't want to threaten with the like sweep shapes, but Batista sees this and moves forward 2. Sorry, the sweep shapes are the only thing that are being threatened, not the fast low range shapes. Although thrust still hits. Looks like we have the Carmine shuffle. Carmine can of course advance across the opponent, so this is a turn for Batista to do something. As Carmine found himself in the corner, and D decided now was the correct time for him to move out of the corner. This is a turn where no blood pools are in play. So let's see if Batista can take advantage of this, perhaps. Notably, Batista can get like additional sources of power as well. Not the best looking gauge for Curse Commandment, but that's certainly an option. Just to try to, like, if there's a grasp. Actually, no, Curse Commandment doesn't really pan out super well. Just because I think Carmine has crosses left for the slows. And I think has and no grasp in the gauge either. It's just a assault dive, which don't really perform well in this particular juncture. So no, Curse Commandment's not the play. Okay, Ashlyn just revealing a copy of Zahishio from her hand and then choosing to strike with EX Zahishio. That's unfortunate. I mean, we saw the Zahishio come out. I don't know if D saw it, but like, we saw this card as Zahishio. So we'll take a look at Zahishio right now. It's a 1 or 2, 2, 6. Before add all the cards to your gauge and gain advantage, hit push 3. So this is the kind of shape that gets countered by. Actually, does Carmine have a card that says can't be pushed? He doesn't, interestingly enough. So I'm pretty sure both copies of Focus are down from Carmine. So this Zahishio is like relatively free. It does push Carmine to here, where both the blood pools are now in play. Interestingly enough. So I wonder if that will be like an unfortunate thing, because all these 4 cards will go to the gauge of Batista, which means that Batista's gonna need to spend a turn not doing anything unless she wants like Wild Swing, and Wild Swing just seems like such a weird follow up to the Zahishio. So it'll mean that Carmine will be like relatively set up with 2 blood pools in front of him at 1 and 3, sitting at range 4. So that seems like a problem. The follow up to the Zahishio. Carmine playing Spike. So Spike is a weird one because Spike will actually trigger this blood pool. I'm assuming this means Carmine didn't really have an option in his hand that wouldn't have triggered both the blood pools. As of course we have before, add all your cards from your hand to your gauge, and gain advantage. On hit, we'll push 3. Carmine takes 3 damage because if it was EX, of course. So Carmine will end up here. Carmine's not stunned, so this before effect will... Wait, that Spike hits. Oh, okay, never mind. Okay, Spike hits, and sorry, we got tied up there. Spike hits. Batista, sorry, we are tired. Spike hits, of course, didn't get stunned. Actually, really excellently called out there from D. So well called out that I didn't catch it. But of course, Batista apparently declared UA to push 4. Pushing 4 meant that both the blood pools were triggered. And that Spike hit back for 9, which was exactly lethal. Huh, okay. I really apologize for that. There's no excuse for not catching that. Yeah, really really funny answer to the Zahishio. Calling out that lethal. Calling it out with exact lethal, rather. So anyway, game 2 starts now. I think it looks like they're actually flipping coin again to see who goes first. Weirdly enough. Oh, Mole gets first. Mole getting first is so different from Mole getting second, just because you get your action for free, as we see. I don't... Is this legal? I don't know if this Mole Knight's legal. But Mole getting the Mole action turn 1 is just so. It just feels good, man. Right? You know, just put that burrow range 3, draw 2. You don't lose a you basically don't lose any you don't lose any cards because you doing the action, so it doesn't feel as bad. And of course, per the tournament rules, Ashley is forced to stay on the Batista. Yeah, and here we see the turn 1 Mole Prep. We'll take a look at the burrow here. So when you initiate a strike, after setting your attack, you may have your attack gain before, if your burrow is unoccupied, advance or retreat until you're in space. So Mole Knight, I think, is a super strong character. Performs well against like zone, like normally like a character like Batista, you'd expect to zone out a character, but not Mole Knight, because Mole Knight can on his turn just put a burrow down, and then initiate from that burrow, pop out of there. With this before effect, and then deal with Batista's shenanigans. So this should be an interesting matchup. I don't think I've ever played this one before. As I've said before, I'm not a good Batista. Batista is probably one of my worst Season 6 characters, if not my worst Season 6 character. I just haven't really been able to make this character work. Anyways, back to Ashland there. Apologies again for missing that spike play. That spike play was really cool. And I just wasn't able to mix it. The additional problem was the fact that the EX kind of telegraphed the fact that it was a Hishio. So we did see Ashland pull a card out, and we saw it as a Hishio. But even if it wasn't a Hishio, there are only 8 cards left in the deck. So I feel like a lot of the EX options were just eliminated, and it just had to be Zahishio. I'm not 100% sure on that, because we're unable to check discards. Because we see a charged attack from Batista, interestingly enough. So this is just going to be Mole Knight striking from burrow with cross to dodge whatever this charge attack is threatening, I'm assuming. At least that's my prediction. I think Mole Knight's going to go fast here. Basically, just pop into the burrow, hit with the cross for 3, and then pop back out over here. Reset the situation. Don't want this charge attack to get any value. Yep, and there's the most obvious cross in the history of crosses. Unfortunately, Batista responds with dive and takes 3. Doesn't even get the value on this charge attack as well. Technically, does discard order matter on Batista? I don't think it does. No, okay, it doesn't. Technically, the dive should be on top. Another strike from Burrow. It's gonna be that diving dig. The range 1 spike like that's Mole Knight has. Of course, discarding a Ruber Angelus as well. Batista must spend 2 force. Luckily, Batista has force for days due to her 5 ultras. Batista builds a gauge, however, Mole Knight builds 2, and we're taking a hard look at Mole Knight's gauge count in the early game, because when Mole Knight gets 4 gauge, he's exceeding every single time. So this Burrow can be placed at range 2, 3, or 4. Looks like another strike from Burrow coming out from Mole Knight. D really keeping up the aggression. I expect this to be a grasp. I expect him to go fast here just to get that guaranteed gauge. Not lose out any strike here. We'll play a grasp like in the Burrow dig. Ashland calls it out with the sweep. Well done there. So Mole Knight does build the 3rd gauge at the cost of 6 health and a card, which I think is totally fine. Pulse the dive as well, not the most important card in the matchup there, I don't think. Yeah, so like I said, when Mole Knight builds his 4 gauge, he can, when he exceeds, when he pops out of the burrow, he gets +2 power, and he gets more leeway as to where he can put the burrow. So on front side, he can only place the burrow at range 3. On back side, he can place it anywhere from ranges 2 through 4. So Mole Knight doesn't really have the best looking ultras right either. Caven's a little bit situational, and Erupt's like a slow 2 to 4. As we see another burrow initiation, and it's going to be another burrow dig. Catches out the cross on the speed tie. Mole Knight has 4 gauge, and this is looking very good for D right here. We'll be able to exceed next turn, surely. Unless he has maybe like a headbutt to give him an advantage first. Nope, just goes for the exceed right away, and we can take a look at backside exceed. Let's take a look at that before effect. So the before, when you pop out of the burrow, you get +2 power. Actually, just insane. D with a pretty good hand there, being able to. Basically, Batista just stood still, which has been kind of unfortunate for her, because D had not 1 but 2 copies of the burrow dig, which is the grasp like card, just able to build gauge. Also, this card draws you a card as well, so D's been able to keep up the pressure as far as hand size is concerned as well. He's not lacking hands. He's not lacking cards in his hand, which is what you normally expect from someone initiating so much. But because of that double burrow dig, D's looking quite good as far as hand size is concerned. Also, still has that burrow at range 1 for more shenanigans in the future. What will Batista do to counter this? Like, health totals may be similar, but Mole Knight is super ahead here. And Mole Knight will strike from Burrow again after Batista boosts Crimson Wings +1 speed when you advance retreat adds to gauge. So let's see if this is another fast. It is the third fast. D just drawing all the fasts here. What can you do as Batista, man? Takes 3. Pushes Batista to the corner. Batista spending that assault. Just really death by 1,000 cuts. Of course, this grass is 5 due to the Mole Knight Burrow effect. Really, really fortunate deck order there, drawing 3 fasts in the first 10 cards. And Ashlyn just unable to react to any of them. I guess Ashlyn did hit with the sweep. But the other 2 have gone unchecked, which is super unfortunate. Ashlyn, okay, initiating strike it to range 3. I expect this to not be assault. I expect this to be like transference or dive or spike. I would definitely try to defend on curve here if I was D. Maybe even a cheeky cave-in. Actually, no gauge for cave-in. I don't know, this just feels like dive or spike or transference to me. I'm not really sure which one, but especially with that assault spent. And yeah, D's defending with the assault. Oh, actually, a range 3 sweep. I did not expect that from Batista. So Batista will trade here. Pull a card as well. Pulls that belly slide, which is the slow option that Mole Knight has. Also, Tunnel Vision's a good boost, but not really useful here. Looks like we're going to see a big CC here. Mole happy with his position on the burrow, wants more cards, doesn't really value the ultras very highly either, so we'll spend the gauge as well. Big CC, CC4, drawing 5, back to Batista. Of course, Mole Knight can still, oh my, that is illegal. It is an illegal Mole Knight card. But Mole Knight can still do some shenanigans with burrow. Like, normally I feel like, or not normally, but a lot of times you see the burrow in front of Mole Knight, and then Mole Knight kind of pops in from range. But Mole Knight can do some shenanigans with the burrow further back. The classic example being just like a range 1 spike. As we see the Curse Commandment come out, Batista going for a risk here does not pay off. D draws the second cross. And yeah, Batista takes 3. Now Mole's going to be striking from the burrow almost assuredly. And this has just gone from bad to worse. D's deck order has been really insane. EX attack from the burrow. This is what EX spike. If I had to guess, could also be like EX block push, I guess. Don't think it's EX block push, but this just feels like EX spike to me. Especially because we saw dive go down, so it's not EX dive. Could it be EX assault? No, it can't be EX assault because we saw D defend with assault on curve a couple turns ago. Does Batista even have an answer to EX spike from the burrow? She has... No, she doesn't. I mean, she could play like an assault. She could play assault to end up here, and then have this EX spike miss. Could this be EX sweep maybe from D as well? Anyway, this is almost assuredly going to be a Mole Knight win. Just the being able to exceed at 24 HP with a life lead. It's actually the EX block push. Wow, gets called out by the dive. Wow, very well done by Ashlyn there. Just saying, okay, I'm going to play to my outs. If it's block push, this dive will win. If it's anything else, this dive will lose. But if it's block push, the dive will win. D ends up playing the block push, maybe a little bit greedy, trying to get the +2 power off the burrow, but well called out there from Ashlyn. Unfortunately, both players find themselves at low number of cards, which is fine for Mole Knight because Batista will have to spend a turn changing cards, assuming, or prepping. But then Mole Knight will do the Mole Knight thing. And it looks like Batista actually opting for more than just a prepare. She's opting for change cards 3. I expect this to be a Mole prepare coming out from D. Yep, moving that burrow to range 2 and drawing 2. So that's kind of what happens when both Mole Knight and his opponent are down cards. Mole Knight's opponent just gets to prepare. However, Mole gets to reposition his burrow and prepare as well. So that situation is actually like totally fine for Mole. He's fine with both players on low cards just for that reason. As we see a respect coming out from Batista. I'm assuming this is just going to be met with another Mole prep. Placing the burrow here and drawing 2. I think you're totally cool with letting this respect go. That's one situation you can do. You can also strike with assault and then Mole prep. Looks like D actually opting for the strike here. Let's see if this is the second copy of assault or if he's going for a cheeky dive spike. I'm not gonna lie, I fully expect this to be assault just so you can get the Mole prep afterward. But that's what makes the dive spike scarier, right? D says, okay, I don't want you to have the cards either. Batista responding with an EX. Is this going to be EX like Transference that she's responding with? EX Spike. Trying to hard call out the spike there. Unfortunately, one too many hard call outs for Ashlyn. The dive will pop over the spike and deal 4 damage after armor. Just trying to hard call out the spike. Unfortunately, it didn't pan out there. D goes for the dive instead. Mole prep coming out surely. Yep, there it is. Moving the burrow to range 2, where headbutt's a threat. Although undercurve technically. Maybe that was the second grasp from Batista coming out though. So headbutt would be super good here. Headbutt spike mix up is basically what you're dealing with as Batista. You can, as a Mole Knight, you can also toss in a couple slows as well. On top of that, but this is looking awful for Batista. Even if Batista like initiates with cross, you're not out of the loop, and yeah, we're just gonna see superior boosted instead of cross. As we see D checking that discard, probably looking to see if there are answers to headbutt in the deck. Superior does make spike a little bit unsafe, just because now you can get stunned out by 4 damage attacks. If you are Mole Knights. Yeah, this game just looked very impossible from the moment that Mole got 4 gauge so easily. Looks like we have a strike from Burrow coming from Mole. Let's see if he goes fast slow. This could be headbutt. No, just for the focus. Okay, the Ruber Angelus will go first. Unfortunately, the focus will pop back in and hit afterward. Batista, of course, has to validate first. This will do 5 to Mole Knight, but of course that focus will pop out of that burrow and hit back for 4. Because of course the +2 power on it. And the Ruber Angelus, of course, had 2 armor thanks to Superior. So Batista just finds herself 2 combats away. You just mash headbutt here if you're D. Has D drawn everything but the headbutt? I mean, we identified that he had a very, very sick draw at the start of the game, but missing those headbutts maybe? Batista down to 3 cards as well. Is D opting to move? He wants to move the burrow this turn? Is it Batista's turn? Did D? Yeah, oh yeah, it is Batista's turn. D initiate with focus, of course. Batista finds herself like in the corner as well. Sorry, I thought it was D's turn, but it was actually Batista's turn because, of course, D initiated from the burrow with the focus. D doing some more meticulous discard searching. If you have headbutt, you play the headbutt here. Because headbutt forces out the block, but of course you get advantage afterward. We're gonna even try to confirm it with a reading. It makes sense to me. Why not? Just increase the chances that you just win the game outright with the headbutt. Make sure it doesn't get blocked. Okay, reading does fail. Reveal a hand of 0-7 Mikoru Seo's Ahishio Armabellum. So the block will come through, unless of course D read like something that was gonna get spiked, which is actually that would be pretty clever if D reads like focus and then plays the headbutt anyway, because it doesn't matter. It's like kind of telegraphing that he's playing spike here when he's really playing the safest headbutt in the world. But that's that. There you go. That's a tech right there for you. When your opponent's at 1 HP like this, just read the focus anyway. Pretend you're playing spike when you're really playing headbutt. Or playing like a fast option like this. The block comes out. Nope. Okay, block into the headbutt, which is the interaction we expected. So this is going to be a push to... Vatista will be pushed to the corner. Mole Knight will presumably retreat 1, gain advantage. Or, sorry, advance 2, gain advantage. This is going to be a 4-power headbutt. So Vatista needs to spend 1 force. This hand is not looking great for the follow-up. Although we know D only has 1 speed 7 option left in the grasp. Instead, he's going to strike from the burrow with Spike, perhaps? With Spike or slow. Grasp, of course, won't win because... No. And yeah, it's going to be the sweep. Pops over, deals 6 damage after armor, even stuns out the focus. Mole Knight taking game 2 after just a really, 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 really good start from Mole Knight. As far as just building that 4 gauge super quickly. And of course, per the rules of the tournament, Ashlyn must unfortunately stick on that Vatista. Our next matchup will be Vatista versus D's Yuzuriha. D has 3 chances to win with the Yuzu. Have we seen D's Yuzu before? I feel like we haven't seen D's Yuzu yet. Because I haven't seen D's Yuzu yet. Of course, Vatista is going to be the character pick for Ashlyn as we head into game 3 here. Just a second. Oh, you know what? I don't need to do those outros because this is going to be one long video. So the reason I've been chopping up I chopped up the last couple commentaries was because they were post-coms, but I didn't have time to do them all in one sitting, but I do have the time to do this one in one sitting. So yeah, we have a full Season 6 matchup here, Vatista versus Yuzuriha. Vatista can push, Yuzu does not like getting pushed, but Yuzu has ways to get in and brawl with her super good cards. Looks like D will be taking first here as well, which is a little bit unfortunate. For Ashlyn, of course. D with a mole 5 says, don't like any of that. Ashlyn looks like she's about to mole 4. And we're off. I expect to see Yuzu move with some... No? Okay, Yuzu just opting for the key charge. Add a card from your hand to your gauge if you have 4 cards more after this exceed. Drops that Saki in there, just not a good card. This card's really good in your gauge because then it makes your Cashos 7 power. Where's this card? Makes this powerhouse of a card 7 power. And plus you don't have to see it anymore, so there you go. D prep telegraphing that he has a decent range 4 option here as well. Notably, the Mikoru Seo would trade with the spike. The range 4 spike that Yuzu has. Of course, Mikoru Seo, with the property of can't stun the opponent, will trade with dive as well, which is kind of interesting. Oh my, a prep discard coming turn 1 from Vatista. Just stuck with a little bit of a bricked hand. Maybe didn't expect Yuzu to stay at range 4. Maybe has a hand that's better dealing with close range Yuzu than range 4 Yuzu. So the prep discard coming out from Ashlyn turn 1 discards the Mikoroseo. Oh, that's interesting, actually. Didn't want to strike with the Mikoroseo. Maybe build gauge for both players, like a 3-for-2 trade. D going for the key charge again. Interesting line here from D. So already has that Casho online. Assault just like a really good shape to put into the gauge as well, so just in case you want to unsheath or flip with Yuzu. Assault just such a good option, and range 3 would be a 1-6 or 3 range 3 6/6 option. Range 2 also works for that as well. Assault just a super solid card to put into the gauge. Of course, we usually also has a second copy of Assault, basically, in the etc. I wonder if D will actually go for the backside or if he's just trying to get values. We see the Veil Off coming from Batista. We actually take a look at backside Batista. For 2 gauge, as we see D boosting the Ansel Loss +1/+1 after add this to your gauge. So for Batista, for 2 gauge, can declare this action to strike, where her pushes, her pulls, her advances, retreats, and her draws are increased by 2. So really, really expensive backside. This is the only backside UA that costs 2 as an action. But when this hits, as we see the flip back from Batista into the tech boost into the strike, I was about to say when that backside hits, and yeah, there's going to be the Casho. Gets called out by the cross. Cute play there from Ashlyn. Makes Yuzu spend the gauge actually as well, as the second copy of Saki now drops into the gauge. Did not expect the range 4 cross there from Batista, but well called out. Casho, of course, was the main threat that we highlighted, and D was going for that. We see the Superior into a tech hit Wild Swing. D says, okay, both your crosses are down, so you're going to be under curve for this strike. Let me go for the Wild Swing. Not under curve, though, because, of course, this is a Hishio at speed 6. With the before effect, add all the cards of your hand to your gauge. And push 3. Of course, this time, we're not going to see that spike hitbacks. We're not Carmine, we're Yuzuriha. Yuzuriha range 5 with no range 5 options. However, Batista with no cards in hand due to the ability... due to the before effect on Zahishia will almost assuredly prep or change cards. Opts for the change cards here. Batista, of course, generates a bunch of force. Will change cards 4, drawing 5. Yuzurita, of course, will have to advance just because she can't function at range 5. She's a close range character, for sure. Let's see if Batista strikes into this or lets this go through. I wouldn't be surprised to see strike into it, although notably 3 of her 4 speed 6 options are down, so this would be likely to be an undercurve option coming from Batista. Notably, dealing has 3 cards in hand, and if he strikes with cross, it's kind of I mean, you do 3 damage. And yeah, there's the cross, as we called out. Ashlyn spends gauge on it. That's a little bit unfortunate. We'll take 3. Usually we'll have to spend resources to move in now. But luckily she does. And it's going to be the Swift and Deadly into the Wild Swing from D here. A little bit fast and loose. The on-curve Assault will beat the Spike Lake. Well called out there from Batista on that strike. Batista now finds herself at range 1 against Yuzu. D really using lots of resources early and really trying to get value out of Yuzu's, like, really, I mean, Yuzu has a lot of good shapes, right? I mean, that's a bad shape, but, like, she has some good cards here. So D's feeling pretty confident with the Wild Swings. Unfortunately, that last one did not pan out, and just preps this turn back to Batista. And we see range 1 strike coming from Batista. Focus gets flipped just to focus into a sweep. 4 for 4. D actually getting decent mileage out of these Wild Swings, all things considered. Pulls the Grasp. Okay, so no respect for D coming out if he gets pushed to a further range. Focus was a decent Wild Swing there, just because for the you cannot be pushed or pulled. Notably, Yuzuriha has a second copy of that of a Focus like in the Kiri. And we're going to see the flip come out from Yuzu. Actually, quite interesting. Really aggressive flip here. Only 2 cards in the gauge. But notably, when she declares this action, her attack gets +2 power and +1 speed. So a little bit of a nasty mix-up here between the cross and the focus. Fast-slow mix-up that you can't really... I mean, it's not skill-based. It's actually just luck-based. So as Yuzu's opponent, you just kind of have to see, okay, which option is worse for me? As we see the +1 speed, hit gain advantage out of this tier gauge, the swift attack coming out from Batista. Notably, still can't deal with the cross. Oh, can deal with the cross with grasp now at speed 8. Will D go for the action anyway? Looks like he is. Okay, looks like he's like waving his hand frantically over it. So of course we'll take a look at this real quick. Check with a random card from your gauge face up. If you did +2 power, +1 speed, the opponent decides to attack first. So obviously when you strike from face up, normally you would know, but not in Yuzu's case because that would be dumb. But Yuzu will strike randomly with an empowered cross or an empowered focus. It's going to be the empowered focus. Oh no. Batista just going for trying to play the odds here. Says, okay, I'd rather try to beat the cross or the focus. Unfortunately, Yuzu flips the focus. Such is the nature of backside Yuzu. I feel these like backside random swings have such a big effect on the rest of the game, and it's really I don't enjoy it for that reason. Just because if you do play for this backside Yuzu, like this kind of swing, I mean, grasp wasn't like a bad play there, right? It was speed 8, it would have beat the cross. But unfortunately, luck was not in the favor of Ashlyn for that strike. And look at that huge swing, right? Batista took 6 damage off of that and only dealt 1 back, when if the cross was revealed, she would have done 3 damage and taken 0 back, right? So that's like an 8 damage swing just off of pure randomness. Not even like calling a mix-up, because of course Yuzu doesn't call it, right? It's just chosen randomly. That's my backside Yuzu rant for the day. Back to the game. Yuzu still finding herself at range 1, now down to grasp as well, which is one of the really good pushing tools against Yuzu. Although nobody usually does have, as we said earlier, does have that additional copy of the focus like in Kiri. Important card, super important card in this matchup. Notably, Kiri does lose really hard to sweep, which is what Ashlyn tried to do before with this sweep. Unfortunately, just called out by the wild swing by D. Ashlyn taking a look at her own discard, as does D. Is Ashlyn thinking of an early reshuffle here? It's the first time we've actually seen Ashlyn look at her discards, that's why I say that. Batista has a ton of gauge left. As is, of course, Batista in Season 6 in general, just generates so much gauge. Gauge economy is super skewed in Season 6 compared to the earlier seasons, so unsurprising to see, but it's just something to note. If you're comparing earlier seasons to Season 6, that's definitely something you wanna watch out for. Looks like a big change cards action coming out from Batista. Interestingly, Spence is a Hishio, so also afraid of the focus light card there. This will be probably a CC4, if I had to guess, drawing 5, perfectly up to 7. Drops those range 1 options for a reshuffle as well if she chooses to. As we see the revert come back from Yuzuriha into the unsheath. D going for another mix-up here. Cross sweep. Just another 50-50. And man, I would be tilted if I was this Batista and lost this mix-up. I would be very tilted here. Notably, both Sahishus are now gone as well. So like sweep is the more deadly option, right? At 8 power. Versus the measly 5 power of cross, which also puts Yuzu further away, where she's more threatened by the fireballs that Batista could throw. But notably, that Zahishia, which would have beat the sweep, has been discarded by Batista for the change cards action. A little bit unfortunate there. Anyway, let's see what we get. It's the cross this time. Batista tries to call it out with the dive. Unfortunately, 0 for 2. Luckily, Yuzu's now at range 4, which is not her best range. However, Batista does take 5 more damage Just unable to call the random 50. I shouldn't even use the word unable. Just unsuccessfully calls out the two random cards that Yuzu played from her gauge, and of course because of the unsheath, unlike the last option, unlike the last 50/50, because of the unsheath on front side, Yuzu gets to keep that card in her gauge for later use. Back to Batista here. Okay. Batista boosting that mix up. Will probably be popping back to range 5. So this could be Mikoroseo, could be Lumen Stella, could be the Ultra. Don't think it's the Ultra. Uh, Yuzu will respond with the dodge. Spends 2 gauge for it, sure. But says, okay, this positioning is worth it to me. Casho is a good tool here, but much prefers to not get hit by the Lumen Stella. Looks like going to be a mix-up, just staying to range 1, cycling that spike. I've actually seen D do this quite a bit. He doesn't really like to keep that spike in hand, will often cycle it. Okay. The Ruber Angelus, EX Ruber Angelus, will hit for 7 minus 2 is 5, and will dodge the focus by advancing 4. So good call out there for Mashlin, actually. D actually finds himself at range 4 with a little bit low on resources. So despite losing those two 50/50s, Batista is not done yet. There's still gas left in the tank for Batista here. She finds herself now at similar life totals, but at a more preferred range of 4. Notably, the range dodge of Casho is no longer up for D. I guess he is. I mean, this is still a range dodge technically. Advanced 3 after on his speed 5, where Batista's high-paying options at far range are the laser at speed 3 and Lumen Stella also at range 3. So we see a Crimson Wings come out, +1 speed. D will just prep in response. Back to Batista. Batista prepping in kind. Back to D. I wonder how many different ways I can say in response to if D preps again. Yep, and there's the prep coming from D. Clearly not scared of whatever Batista's threatening here at range 4. Probably just has a block to deal with it. Like block into like an air dash or something. If Batista were to choose to initiate, that would be my guess as to why D's content with prepping at range 4. And of course can still dodge with the speed 5. The only thing D can't dodge is a dive from Batista. Batista preps in turn, in kind, in response. D is calling out all the cards, looks like. The cards that are left. Of course, Ashley only has 1 card left in her deck. Could this be a reading coming out then from D? Yeah, it is going to be a reading. I'm assuming it's going to be like a reading something into that range 4 spike that Yuzu has. It's a little bit unfortunate there from Ashlyn. Going a little bit too deep into the deck. Hopefully she's bottomed that the normal that is being read. Oh my, it's going to be the EX spike as well. No, it's going to be EX Kiri. So this assault will go first. Luckily, the Arbellum does... not luckily. At the very least, the Arbellum goes to gauge. However, the assault gets called out just because Ashlyn had only 1 normal left in her deck, and gets called out hard by the EX Kiri, which will deal 8 damage and draw a card as well. Big swing there for D. That's the problem when you dig too deep into the deck. You siphon hand information, and you get called out by reading. That's just unfortunate there from Ashlyn. Notably, D's almost at that point. He has 5 cards in deck, but only 4 in hand, so reading's not super likely to hit. Back to Batista, who, reminder, Ashlyn is 4 life away from losing this set, unfortunately. So, if there's any time to take your time and think about what you're gonna do, now's that time. So no wonder Ashlyn's taking her time here. Really trying to think, how can I get myself out of this hole at range 2 versus a Yuzuriha. As Batista does have a decent amount of force available, does have a decent amount of cards in hand, but life totals are 4 to 14 at this moment, so Batista will need like 3 good strikes to bring this game back without losing a strike herself in the process. What's D taking a look at? D's taking a look at the normal boosts. Okay. You know what? In honor of D, we have reached the 1 hour mark just about. I think we're like 57 minutes since the mix-up comes out. Drink some water. There you go. Mix-up comes out. Unfortunately, this mix-up is super telegraphed as to what it can be, just because there's only 6 options left for Ashlyn. Maybe it's unbeatable, though. Not unbeatable, but like unlikely to be beaten. No, it's not Assault. So, I mean, if Yuzu has etc., etc. just wins, right? Yeah, and here is the etc. Oh, it's just the block, interestingly enough. Okay. Okay. Mix up into block. Batista will take nothing. Yuzu will fly across over to range 1. Well spotted there from Ashlyn, actually, that the etc. would have beat anything that she would have thrown. Don't really know why she went for the block there, though. Especially now because D gets an initiation for free. Annie slow will just be really good. We'll force out a wild swing. I think Ashlyn's out of dives. But Annie slow that gets played. Nope, just looks like a superior coming out from Yuzu. I expect to see big CC here from Ashlyn. We don't know how big, but relatively big. Probably also wants, maybe also wants to get this block back into the deck. Notably, Ashlyn not revealing your hand. Not something you have to do. Force your opponent to count the cards and make the mistake, yeah? This is tournament, and you are not obligated to tip your hand. Looks like a let's just make sure a duplication glitch didn't happen. Looks like we're good. I don't really know how that duplication glitch works. Looks like a CC6 so far. Keeping the block in the gauge, notably. Now it's CC7. Did have the dive in hand, actually, to counter the slows. This is going to be CC7, drawing 8, I believe. I believe that was. 1 card kept in hand. The Lumincella kept in hand, interesting. Yeah, CC7 drawing 8. We'll have to... Oh, CC8 drawing 9, excuse me. we'll have to discard 3 cards down. Notably, Ashley did keep a block engaged, so not looking for blocks, looking for offensive options to win games, not defensive options to stall games. Okay, drops the Mikoroseo. 2 more, needs to drop 2 more. Drops the Assault. Not looking to air dash. Maybe he thinks it's too slow, because D might be just striking this next turn. And what's the 3rd card that's getting dropped? Drops the known Lumen Stella. Okay, back to D. Wouldn't be surprised to see him strike here. No, opts for extra range. So this extra range does what? Well, first of all, if D gets stunned, he gets to keep the extra range for the next strike. Tells me that slows that are hit 1 to 3, namely sweep, will now be cross. Maybe just setting up for the next strike as well. If like D plays, I don't know, like let's just say D plays and etc. gets stunned out by grasp. Well, next turn gets to keep this, not over yet, at a further range possibly from Batista. So just compounding advantages, basic stuff. Looks like D's checking his last 3 cards, and we'll shuffle his deck afterward. You can do this with the permission of your opponent, as Ashlyn is checking the discard. Okay, so D calls as his last cards as 0, 2, 4, 5 over here in Inochi Kurenai. Good for us to know as the viewers. So yeah, Batista can no longer safely cross without a mix-up, as the sweep will catch the cross. Will potentially catch the cross, that is. Notably, a reading still left for T as well, so we can try to confirm that into a win. Although this reading is much less likely to hit. Looks like Ashlyn going for her own reading. I mean, this is kind of a 50-50 here, technically. Does hit the assaults. Will be the grasp. Yeah, okay, so it is the grasp. Usually we'll take 2, but Batista does diffuse the superior, does not diffuse the not over yet. As D boosts +1 power, +1 speed. Now that dive is on curve. And of course it's dive, so that over here also on curve. And would be lethal as well. So 2 on curve options there for Yuzuriha to deal lethal damage. I mean, sweep is sweep, so sweep will do the job too, technically. But 2 on-curve options that Batista now has to deal with. Batista striking, I wouldn't be surprised to see if this is like a cross, honestly. If it's not an on-curve assault, then it's like a cross, right? I don't think Batista ever plays a slow here. Batista can't afford to play slow here. So I think D just responds with a sweep. And maybe Batista is trying to cross. Okay, yep. Batista called it out successfully. Batista does cross. Notably, D wild swings the block. So this is not over yet. Goes to discard because D was not stunned. He does get the gauge. Only 3 cards left. Those 3 cards being what 2-4 over here. Batista will have to move in this turn. Just depends on how much Batista wants to move in. Whether it's 3 or 4. Looks like it will be 4 spaces. Spends 4 force to move in. Hand not the best looking hand right now. Over here, dive and sweep. Not the best looking hand here. Not a checkmateable hand. Actually, this hand does get checkmated by Transference, but of course D can wild swing off the top. Notably, D showing Ashlyn the really good play of Unsheath into this, etc., which will be on curve at range 2. D just giving that one out for free. And another play I can see is maybe like a just defense into an over here, just to try to protect it a little bit better, but that would lose to like an assault shape. Would lose to the... Actually, would beat the Transference on offense, because Transference is only 4 speed. But as Ashlyn, you are still down 8 life, 4 to 12. You gotta find an answer. You gotta find an answer fast, because Yuzu's back in her prime range. I don't even know if you can afford to like move back further, because D could just strike with dive, and it's just like, hey, do you have an answer to a dive at range 4? With Yuzu taking center space, of course. Okay, what does Batista think about doing here? Maybe spending force for something. If it's more than 2 force, then it's probably change cards. No, it's going to be step back 2 from Batista. Now, I wonder if D just strikes with dive here in response to that. Notably, Mikoroseo is the fast option here. That would not work. EX dive, I believe, is down because the reading was used after the reshuffle. So this dive is looking relatively free. Normally, it wouldn't kill through the Mikoroseo. Would trade, but Yuzu would find herself at range 1, which is probably better than range 4. So I'm thinking that Yuzu might just strike with dive here. Force out an armored option from Batista as well. Did Batista drop one Mikoroseo post reshuffle as well? So maybe he only has one left. Okay, yeah. D opting to strike here. Striking with a dive almost assuredly. So the thing about TCS is we could actually track to what that card was. The shuffling mechanics when hand sizes are low are not good, and don't rely on them. Just group your cards and then do it. Wow, that's a heartbreaking way to end the set. Wow, D pretends to strike with dive, strikes with a sweep instead to try to bait out. An answer to the dive. An answer to the dive was played in form of the assault. D says, "Okay, I have enough health to make this kind of read-based play." Batista plays right into it, plays the assault, and loses to gets swept on the backside. That's so unfortunate, but D will take the set 3-0 off the soul read there a little bit. Not really a soul read. This kind of read you can make with high health totals. However, you will only see certain kind of players make this read, and I guess we learned today that this guy's one of them. So D will take the set 3-0. We'll move on to 2-0 in the Swiss brackets. Of course, you need to be 4-0 to just win the tournament. There's no playoff bracket afterward. Ashlyn will drop down to 1-1, losing 3 games with the Batistas. I feel like we've seen a lot of these games where you can't just you pick a character and you can't get a win with them, and then you're stuck with them for the rest of the set, and then 3 games later you've lost. That's really unfortunate, but unfortunately Ashlyn also falls victim to that. We'll drop to 1-1. Sorry, I feel like that sentence should have ended somewhere, but it didn't. I just kind of let it trail off. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the set. D takes it, of course, 3-0. And we'll see you for the next one. I hope you enjoyed the live stuff. It's been a little while since I've done a live commentary, so hopefully it came out alright. I know I did screw up the one call at the end of game 1, but you know, mistakes happen, and I do apologize for that. I'll try to be better in the future. But thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you for the next one. Bye-bye.